Hi, good afternoon, guys. My name is Hemant. I'll try to keep it as short as possible. And I'm not here to sell anything to any one of you. I have a rather insightful presentation on what's happening in the payment space. It might be of interest to quite a few of you. Let me start with the presentation. Is it possible for someone to get this loaded? I can't see. Okay, great. So let me tell you what we at Innoviti are doing in disrupting the whole digital payment ecosystem in India, at least in the offline space. Some very interesting stuff happening. But let me take a step back and, excuse me. Can somebody help me with this? Is this a one, two? Okay, great. Thanks. So let me just take a step back and tell you a little bit about Innoviti's journey over the last several years. Innoviti started in 2008. We were the first payment aggregator to set up a cloud-based payment acceptance platform at Reliance Retail. We have been working with them since 2008. It's been 14 years now. And we continue to be their preferred payment partners in the payment space. 2015 is when Innoviti launched the SME lending short-term working capital product for small merchants with multiple lenders. That's the year when Innoviti hit a $1 billion transaction volume in 2015. 2017 is when we launched India's first UPI solution at a billing POS in the offline space. We hit a $3 billion GTV in that financial year. 2020 is when we partnered with Visa and we launched the integrated installment management system. We hit a $6.5 billion GTV in that year. 2021 is when we launched a product called Genie, which was fundamentally aimed at small general trade mobile phone retailers who were competing with the offline and online retailers. And in 2022, which is this year, we introduced a product called Deep Link, which fundamentally allows you to use the UPI platform to do a far more engaging and a quick payment solution. That's what we introduced in the year 2022. Coming back to where we are now, well, our vision is to enrich lives by helping people make better purchase decisions. And we intend to be a part of every purchase decision of every Indian. That's what our mission is all about. Having said that, I think a lot of you are aware of what's happening in the UPI space. There's a lot of disruption happening in UPI. All of you are aware of what's happening in the UPI space. A lot of data being thrown around about what's happening in that category, how UPI is shaping the payment ecosystem in India. Let me just give you a little bit of perspective on that. So if you look at the data, it's a slightly busy slide, but just to give you a flavor, in the month of July 2022, the overall UPI volume was about 6.28 billion transactions in one single month. That translates to about 10.6 lakh crores of volume in one single month using UPI. And within that, I'm sure you're aware of the terms P2P and P2P, but just in case you don't know, P2P is peer-to-peer or person-to-person payments, and P2M is person-to-merchant payments. So bulk of the UPI volume, which is almost about 80% of it, has happened in the P2P space. When I transfer money to you, you transfer money to me. That's the kind of volume that has taken about 80% of the share. 20% is the volume which has happened between people to merchants. So when you go and pay a shopkeeper, that is just about 20% of the overall volume. That's what the spread looks like. Bulk of the payments, if you notice, are above rupees 2,000. Yeah, in both the categories, whether it's P2P or P2M, the volume generally are above rupees 2,000 per transaction. What is interesting is the RBI has forecasted a 50% growth in the next 5 years in the UPI volumes. And that means on an existing base of 6.2 billion transactions in a month, it's going to grow by 50% on a very large base. And that's a very interesting insight that one can look at. What this means is tech-based payment acceptance, whether it's UPI to begin with, is going to fundamentally change a lot for general trade merchants and small merchants who are willing to accept payments in digital form. And what that means is a lot of saving for merchants, at the same time, the most convenient and the safest way of paying from a customer's point of view. Yeah. Let me come to one more insight, which is the fact that I'm sure all of you know the fact that recently RBI has permitted RuPay to link credit cards to UPI. What that means is the amount of volume we will see happening through UPI, not just through UPI payments, but now linking credit cards of RuPay to UPI, will, I think, grow exponentially. And it's a matter of time before it happens. I think next 6 months, you will see this project going live. I mean, that happens, there's going to be an exponential rise in UPI payments in the Indian context. Yeah. Just to look at some insights from what Innoviti has been doing. We, as I said earlier, we almost do about $8.5 billion worth of transactions in the UPI space. We largely cater to five segments, though we do have merchants in other categories as well, categories like aviation and so on and so forth. But the largest 5 categories where we are present are, if you look at the top 5 categories, we have fashion apparel, a lot of merchants there like Madura, Pantaloons, Shoppers Stop, Reliance Trends. These are kind of merchants we work with. Then the second category we have a strong presence is food and grocery, the likes of DMart, likes of Reliance, Reliance Smart, Reliance Fresh, the likes of more small merchants like Ratnadeep. So that's one segment where we have a large presence. The third segment is food and beverages, QSR space, the likes of KFC and Pizza Hut and so on and so forth. And the healthcare and the last is the jewelry segment. If you look at the spends that are happening from customers in this kind of categories, the first 3 categories you are seeing UPI ticket sizes almost close to the credit card and debit card ticket sizes. I mean, don't go by the scale there. The scale is what is causing confusion. But if you look at the first 3 segments, it's amply clear that customers who went and shopped in these 3 category of stores, the spends on UPI are almost similar to the kind of spends that they do using credit cards or debit cards. Obviously, when it comes to categories like healthcare and jewelry, that doesn't happen because ticket sizes are much larger. When you go and spend in a hospital, you spend a few lakhs in many cases. Yeah? Or when you buy jewelry, the ticket size is much larger and customers prefer to pay using credit cards or debit cards. But what this means is UPI is slowly and surely becoming the most preferred mode of payment when it comes to small ticket kind of purchases. People spending rupees 2,000, 2,500, 3,000, 5,000. Even in jewelry for that matter, spends up to 15,000, 18,000 are happening through UPI. That's a very interesting trend that we see with merchants who we work with. Another very interesting insight, if you look at the overall UPI penetration in the payment space, close to 40 to 50% of payments in India actually happen through UPI. But when you look at enterprise, or at least in Innoviti's case, all the enterprise or the large format retailers that we work with, the UPI share is barely 7 to 8%. So what is stopping the enterprise or the large format retailers in really capitalizing on this convenience that UPI has to offer? We believe there are 3 primary reasons. First being the fact that most of them actually use static QR codes. Static QR codes are cumbersome, they require a lot of manual work, they are not very efficient. Scanning sometimes is not very efficient, and the ease of payment is not there when you happen to make a payment through a static QR code. That's the first reason. Second reason is there are still a large number of failed transactions when it comes to UPI payments. I'm sure all of you would have experienced that. And third, because everybody largely uses static QRs, these transactions are reconciled. And therefore, it's a huge effort to manage those kind of transactions and reconcile them separately. Yeah? It's not very convenient. So these are 3 primary reasons we believe that the large format retailers and the enterprise customers who we work with have not really adopted UPI the way they should have, or the way a small general trade merchant has adopted UPI. So if you look at the percentage of 40-50%, what fundamentally it means is small shops, general trade merchants, the share of UPI possibly is as high as 70-80%, whereas in large format retailers, it's still at 7-8%, at least in our case. So what is Innoviti doing, in trying to bring acceleration in this whole UPI piece? What are we doing? Some interesting stuff is happening here. To begin with, 3 recent developments. Innoviti just received the RBI in principle nod to become a payment aggregator. That's the first part of news I thought I'm going to share with you. Second is we are partnering with ONDC, and very soon we shall go live on that piece as well. And recently we introduced UPI Deep Link, which is a solution I'll talk about here. If you want, you can have a look at how the solution works. We have a stall outside, stall number 12. You can visit there and see a demo of how the Deep Link actually works on the UPI part. Okay. So we believe that the traditional payment links that generally people get on SMSs are dead and they're outdated. Yeah. There's a completely unmatched convenience that the Deep Link has to offer. Let me show you what it's all about. So before we do that, let's take a pause and look at what really happens at a store. Yeah? When you go to a physical store, an offline store, there are two needs of two different sets of people. What is the merchant looking at, and what is the customer looking at? The merchant is looking for, he's looking to attract more customers, he's looking to retain those customers, he's looking to encourage more and more digital and contactless payments, he wants to keep up with the consumers' changing requirements, and he wants to obviously maintain a supply chain. Yeah? That's what he's expected to do. On the other hand, what's the customer looking at? He's looking at lesser wait time at the checkout, he's looking at good quality of merchandise, he's looking at the staff to resolve his issues on time, he wants a quick and simple payment option, and he's looking at offers, obviously, given by merchants. Yeah? So in this kind of a situation, the reality is that any cumbersome or time-consuming payment process actually becomes a reason for me to not shop in that store. Yeah? And that's one of the top 3 reasons identified by customers, and that's a data which supports this. Now in this context, let's look at what happens in the current situation. You go to a store, you want to make a payment using UPI, what really happens? If you're an integrated solution where the billing solution and the payment solution are integrated and talking to each other, in that environment, what happens? The cashier will trigger a UPI as a payment option in the billing POS. The dynamic QR with the value of the transaction embedded into it will appear on the EDC machine. The cashier turns the EDC towards you. Yeah? You open your UPI app, whatever it is, PhonePe, GPay, Paytm, whatever. You scan the QR code, you take it back and forth, you enter the PIN, authorize the payment, and the cashier then goes and validates whether the payment is successful, not successful, generates an invoice and gives it to you. Time-consuming process takes a minimum 30 seconds, sometimes even longer, depending on how fast the QR gets scanned and so on and so forth. This is the general process that all of you follow when you go into a store and make a payment using UPI. Let's look at the deep link, and that's the solution we're talking about here. What really happens here? So here, the first step is the same. The cashier triggers a payment using UPI as an option. Straight away, a notification comes and hits you in your WhatsApp. Yeah? You open the WhatsApp. There's a Pay Now option there. You click on it. The deep link automatically goes and detects all the UPI apps that are on your phone, whether it's a PhonePe, whether it's a GPay, whether it's a WhatsApp Pay for that matter. You click on it, you enter the 4-digit code, payment gets done, the receipt gets sent out to your WhatsApp, no physical receipts required. So far more convenient, far more faster, no scanning required at any point of time, takes probably 1/3 the time in doing a transaction like this. Yeah? So just to give you a summary of what really changes between a conventional QR-based scanning payment option versus a deep link solution that we have to offer. Time taken is 1/3. Yeah? The cashier is involved in the transaction in a QR-based solution till the end, because you have to go and verify, is it successful, not successful, turn the EDC around and let you scan and stuff like that. Here, the customer does everything. The cashier is free to go and pack the customer's goods. He saves time in the process. And obviously, the last but not the least, there is no hard copy of a physical invoice required. Everything gets triggered to the customer's WhatsApp. He gets a copy of the charge slip, he gets a copy of the invoice, all in the WhatsApp. Yeah? We found some very interesting use cases when we went and approached some of our merchants who we work with. Yeah? The first use case being a typical use case of home delivery. Yeah? Customer wants to place an order using using the application. He places an order, say, on JioMart. The delivery boy goes to his house, triggers an invoice to the customer's WhatsApp, and the process is the same as the previous process. Everything is integrated, completely reconciled transaction, without any bulky device to be carried with you, like an EDC, where he has to go and scan it. Yeah. Second interesting use case, somebody who is in the business of utility services, like gas, for example, or power, for example. Same thing happens here as well. The service provider triggers a WhatsApp payment link. The customer gets the link on his phone. He clicks on Pay Now. The same process happens. He chooses the UPI application, makes the payment. A completely integrated transaction happens. A reconciled transaction happens. He gets the invoice on his WhatsApp. Third interesting case, the retailer who wants to renew his paid loyalty program. We have a customer who's doing that with us right now. They have a very low conversion of customers who enroll for such a loyalty program. The year 2 and year 3, just about 20% of them actually go and renew it. The rest of them don't renew it because they're required to come to the store and renew the program. Here, the customer actually can get a trigger just a couple of days before the expiry of the loyalty program. He gets a trigger, the customer makes a payment sitting at home. Again, no visit to the store required, completely reconciled transaction, and convenient through UPI. So these are 3 use cases we have seen so far with merchants who we work with in the enterprise space. I'm sure there are more use cases. We'll be happy to talk to any one of you. We have a stall outside, as I said earlier, stall number 12. Happy to take any questions there. I would not, in the interest of time, do that here, and we can discuss it further. Thank you so much.